Hi guys, it's Sarah, otherwise known as Little Snips again, and welcome back to my Flosstube. This is episode number 32, and it is February 15th, so happy post-Valentine's Day if you celebrate, and happy post-Thursday or happy pre-weekend if you don't. It is the day after my anniversary, so we always do celebrate. Normally we don't do anything that exciting. This year is my 21st anniversary, so our big deal was last year when we went to Hawaii, if you remember that. But yeah, so I hope you guys have had a good couple of weeks stitching. I hope that you've had some comfortable, relaxing time with friends and family. If you are in the polar or were in the polar vortex, I hope you weren't too terribly cold. Here in California, we're getting a lot of rain right now. We sort of got the tail end of the polar vortex, meaning now that you guys have warmed up, we are getting the cold weather and lots of rain. We actually just had a hailstorm, so if my lighting's a little weird, I apologize. I know the angle is a little weird. Again, I'm constantly trying to figure out ways to film this that will work and not make anybody sick or let me show things properly. So, right, disclaimer. If you're coming back, thank you for coming back, and thank you so much. Last episode, I mentioned that I didn't have anything particularly unique to distinguish myself, sort of the way that Teresa Kitten Stitcher suggested in her list of things to do if you're going to do a Flosstube video. And so many of you said, you're unique enough, everybody's unique, everybody has their own way of doing things, and that means that we're all individuals and we don't need to have something particularly kitschy or sparkly. We don't all have to have something amazingly unique to share. Thank you for that. Thank you for the words of encouragement. Thank you for the words of support. I love you guys. You are awesome, and you are the reason that I keep coming, or that I have come back again to do Flosstube videos. So, let me just go ahead. Oh, and before I forget, because I usually do, if you have found me and you're new, welcome to the channel. Like I said, I'm Sarah. I'm Little Snips. I do a lot of things. I have friends in the boxes back behind me, as you may or may not know. And yeah, this is me. So, without further ado, I guess I'll just go ahead and get started. Oh, one thing, Kelly Bell, and if you're not watching Kelly Bell Stitches, or not Kelly Bell Stitches, just look for Kelly Bell on Flosstube. If you're not watching her, you should, because she has amazing projects. She's started doing, snippets, vlogs of what she's working on every day, and she does a lot of different things. So cross-stitching, junk journal making, beadwork, making clay pendants. She does a lot of things, like many of us do, and she shares it on her channel. So if you're not watching her, you should be. But Kelly, I think, is the one who asked what play I was doing, since I mentioned that I've been doing theater pretty much nonstop for the last year or so. I was a theater major. I had a Shakespeare concentration, so Shakespeare is my first love. But yeah, I've been doing theater pretty much nonstop for the last year. Right now I am in a production of The Beaux Stratagem. It's B-E-A-U-X. The Beaux Stratagem. It is a restoration comedy, English restoration comedy. It was written in 1707. We are doing a slightly modified version of the play, but yeah, it's a restoration piece, lots of fancy costumes, lots of ridiculousness. There is a version of it on YouTube if you want to look it up and see what I'm talking about. It's a pretty good version. I am playing a character called Lady Bountiful, which means that because I'm about 20 years older than everybody in the rest of the cast, I am playing the mother matronly figure. They still put age makeup on me because I don't look old enough to be the character, but, you know, I'll take it. But yeah, it's a fun play, and that's what I'm doing right now. I have also been cast in the show that follows that, which is Carrie, the musical. So if you're familiar with Carrie by Stephen King, if you're familiar with the original movie with Sissy Spacek, we are doing a musical version of that play. And I'm basically an ensemble person, which is fine. Again, I'm old. I'm older than the rest of the people in the cast. I'm working with a city college theater company, which is great. I love the people. I love my castmates. I've made fantastic friends. Yeah, I just love them. But I'm older than most of the people in the cast, so I am currently playing, or in Carrie, I will be playing a teacher I'll be playing sort of the principal English teacher character. There's a version of this on YouTube too, which is a pretty decent version, so if you want to go and watch that. I'm playing Mr. Stevens. I'm not playing Mr. Stevens. We're changing it to Ms. Stevens. But yeah, so that's what I'm doing for the next foreseeable future. And there's other stuff coming up, but there you go. Now you're updated on my theater life. And the light has gotten really dark in here because, like I said, we just had a hailstorm, and normally I have to close my blinds, but I think I'm going to have to turn a light on or open them, so give me 1 second. I'm going to pause the video and fix this. Right, that's better. Sorry for the camera's going to wobble a little bit, but it'll stop very soon, I hope. Yeah, so I'm sorry that the side of my face is washed out now. I try to avoid that as much as I can, but the way the light is in here, it's just the way it works. Right, ramble, 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 as I do. Let me go ahead and get started, because, like I said, I'm doing roulette wheel stitching, so I'm using Decision Roulette on my Android phone to choose what I stitch on every day, which means I touch a lot of things, and I like it. I'm actually loving doing this. I touch a lot of things. I get to see things that I wouldn't normally or necessarily pick up to stitch. It does duplicate things a lot, so that's a little frustrating sometimes. And I will admit, I confess, if it gives me the same thing 2 days in a row, I make it respin, because I don't want to do things 2 days in a row. But I have a couple of things that are coming up where I have 3 days in between times that I stitch on it. And that's fine. It's interesting to see where things come up repeated, and it doesn't repeat the same things all the time. So occasionally it shifts around to another side of the wheel, and it repeats something else for a few times. But I'm doing roulette wheel stitching, which means I touch things for a day and then I move on. I'm also in the School of Magical Stitches Facebook group, which is the Harry Potter group this year, which means we have weekly homework assignments. Sometimes I do those and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just don't feel like I have pieces that will fit, or I don't feel like doing the homework, so I'm not the best student, is what I'm trying to say. I am a Ravenclaw, go figure, but yeah, I'm not necessarily the best student, so sometimes I touch things, sometimes I don't. Excuse me, sometimes I cough randomly. So yeah, I'm gonna show you what I've done since the last time I saw you, which is a couple weeks ago. So the first thing I'm gonna show you is my, well, I'm gonna pause this again, and I'm gonna turn on the overhead light, which I don't want to do because I don't like the way that it makes the room look, and I don't like the lighting, but given the storm, again, hailstorm just happened, it's really rainy today, the light is fading and coming and going, and yeah. So I'm afraid that the light's going to fade again. So one more pause, I'm going to turn on the overhead light. You're not going to like it, probably. I certainly won't like it, but you got to do what you got to do. 1 second. Right. I'm fixing my hair. I know, people don't like that either, but... Right. So, overhead light is on now. It's gross, but you'll be able to see things better and the light will not fade. So the first thing I'm going to show you is my Fairy Sampler, Faces of Fairy Sampler by Joan Elliott. This is what it looks like now. As I said last time I talked to you, I was going to work on this the day that I did that video. So I did actually work on it, and I finished the border pieces. Camera, will you show that? Yes. So you can see all of my little flower parts, my flower borders, are completely stitched and backstitched, which means I can move on to actual fairies. So there will be a fairy. The first fairy I work on will be in this corner. Yeah, this is on a piece of 28 count casual linen, 28 count, I said that, 28 count. Casual linen in doubloon from Picture This Plus. The color is not going to show up accurately because of the overhead light, but that's okay. But yeah, so I touched this. This is coming up in the next couple of weeks of stitching, so you will see this again. And that's where I am. One of the things that comes up a lot in my roulette stitching is the Under the Sea sampler by Doreen Jones and Lakeside Needlecraft. This has come up several times. It's coming up several more times. My roulette wheel really likes this pattern for some reason. I'm not sure why, but it really likes it. The nice part about that is that it reintroduced me to the stitch along because I had put it down. Reintroduced me to it and reminded me how much I liked it. Also, it means that I actually finish things because I work on them for multiple days. So, this is where I am on Under the Sea. And as you can see, I finished... Actually, let me fold this back so the octopus hides. You have seen the octopus before. Let me see if I can get him out of the way. I finished... Well, now I folded part of the shark back. This is what happens when you don't rehearse. This is what happens when you do the video. You just go for it, and you let things happen as they will. Right. You can see most of him now. I finished and backstitched, despite the folding, I finished February. So I finished the shark. So he's done, his little fishy friends are done, their eyeballs are in, which means that when I pick this up again in a couple of days, I will be moving on to the March portion of this stitch along, which is, I believe, is just more fish. Not particularly exciting, but, you know, you do what you do. But anyway, like I said, since I stitched this several days since the last time you saw me, this has come up, I think, 3 or 4 times, I managed to get this done. And while I normally don't like backstitching in this particular piece, it's absolutely required to be able to see what everything is. And I think they're really cute. I don't like sharks. I'm not a fan of sharks. I think he's adorable. So, Under the Sea by Doreen Jones. And that's on, I bought the fabric from Lakeside Needlecraft, so that's on a piece of fabric flare. Right. What else? Oh, I say that like I've gone through everything I have, and that is not even remotely the case. Next thing I'm going to show you is my 2017 Linen and Threads sampler by Brendan Kirk. This one, the downside of doing roulette stitching, of touching things for one day, is that if I run out of time in a day, because I'm in rehearsal or whatever, if I run out of time in a day and I don't get a lot of time to stitch, not a lot of progress happens. Or if I happen to pick something up, which has happened a couple of times in the last couple of weeks, I happen to pick something up and I'm not feeling it, not a lot of progress happens. I'm still going to show you things, and to further disclaim, I'm going to stop playing with my hair, I am. To further disclaim, I know a lot of people, now I'm going to stop. Now I know a lot of people show you before and after pictures. Since my filming, recording setup has changed, I don't have a comfortable way to do that. I have brought copies of patterns with me this time so I can show you what things are gonna look like. If I can find a non-clunky way of inserting before pictures, I will do that in between showing you things. I don't think it's gonna happen this time, maybe for the next video. But if I can do that, I will. If I can't, you're just gonna have to see if you can remember where I was, or take my word for where I was. But this is the 2017 Mystery Sampler Linen and Threads by Brendan Kirk. And this is where I am. Obviously, I have not gotten very far. I didn't do a lot of stitching on this when it came up in rotation. I just did this flower, the beginnings of this flower then, so obviously it's going to look like this one. I got, I don't know what, slightly less than halfway through it. Which, I really like this particular sampler, which sounds weird for the fact that I have not even completed the first third of January on it. But I do really like this pattern. I just didn't, I think this was a day when I had come home late after rehearsal and I was just, it wasn't moving me, so I did what I did and that's it. This one, however, I got quite a bit done on. And I have not touched this particular pattern I hadn't touched it since the beginning of 2018, I think, which is sad because it's a big pattern. This is my Death by Cross Stitch. So this is where I am now, and I'll put it closer so you can see it better. You don't need to see me close up, you need to see the stitching, right? Well, I should have clipped that back. Yeah, this is my Death by Cross Stitch. I am stitching this in DMC 400. I'm only going to do it in one color. I am stitching this 1/1 on 28 count marginally even weave. As you can see from, or as you might be able to figure out, since you've probably seen other people's versions of this, My fabric is not square. It's not entirely square. It's not terribly out of shape. It is rectangular though. Or the holes are rectangular, so my flowers are a little elongated. But that's okay. It doesn't bother me really. I don't mind. I'm not going to cry about it. And I think at the end, overall, it's going to look just fine. So this is where I am now. I finished, well, I did most of this bottom row. I have to finish this row, and I have to do the partial row underneath it, and then I will be finished with the page 1 of 16. It's not the biggest project I have, but it is big. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this. And this is coming up a couple times in the next couple of weeks, so you will see this again as well. This is another stitch along from last year. This is the 2018 Modern Folk stitch along, which was 4 seasons. I am not doing the 2019. I may pick it up at a later date, but as I've said before, I'm not buying stitch-alongs, despite the fact that more stitch-alongs keep coming out that are really tempting that I really want to do, but I'm not doing them. I'm not buying them right now. This is the 2018 version, though. 4 seasons. This is where I am. I got on this kick of working on things diagonally, and I sort of applied it to everything, even if I don't need to. I don't necessarily need to work on this project diagonally, but I am because I'm stubborn and that's how I started, and so that's what I'm doing. Go figure. Right. Modern Folk Embroidery, 4 seasons. This will be the winter portion of it. That is, at least it focuses. At least the camera's not unfocusing on you. That is done in royal blue sulky blendables. And it is on 18 count undyed Aida. I finished part of a diagonal. I got more of the deer done here. I finished this motif. There's little corner pieces. Eventually I'll finish the page and it will look like something. My next piece is another one. When I picked it up, this one I can say specifically, when I picked it up, I was just not feeling it. I sat and I stared at it for a while, and yeah, I just didn't feel it that day. So I worked on other things. But this is the 2018 Linen and Thread Stitch Along. This one has a name. This is the Medieval Menagerie, again by Brandon Kirk, and this is where I am on it. Still not finished with January. Still not finished with the first band. I did a teeny tiny itty bitty amount of stitching. Right. Where's my finger? Where is it? Where's my finger? I can't see it. Oh, it's over there. Way over there. Ha! Right. I did a tiny bit of stitching over here. This little yellow bit of yellow on the curly Q plant filigree, whatever you want to call that thing. Yeah. Sometimes I really love this piece. Sometimes I don't love it so much. I didn't love it so much this time. That's okay. It will come up again. Not in the next couple of weeks maybe, but it will come up again. You'll see it, and you will see it as it progresses, because that's the way it goes. Since we're on a Linen and Threads kick, might as well show you the 2019 sampler. This one is not a band sampler, as you may well know. This one is called Peacocks Garden. I am going to be behind on this one again. I really wanted to catch or stay caught up on this one, and I possibly could have, but I fell behind, and now I'm just behind. So it's okay. As I've said, I'm not going to beat myself up for being slow or for being behind on stitch-alongs. I'm going to stitch as I stitch, and when I stitch, and how I stitch, and not worry about it. But this is the 2019 Stitch-Along Mystery Sampler, and that is Phineas. As you can see, he has the left-hand side of his... left-hand? Yeah, left-hand side of his inner wings, his pin feathers done. This is also being stitched in sulky. It is Peacock Plume sulky blendable. It is also on 18 count undyed Aida. And, you know, it would help if he's not folded up so you could actually see him. But anyway, that's what he looks like. Some of these things do get used for the School of Magical Stitches classes, and I don't necessarily remember which ones they are. So if I don't say that, it It's possible that I used it and I just don't remember. Hopefully that's not a total downer for you. And yeah. Right. The next thing I worked on, sometimes, as I said, working one day at a time, sometimes it's not so much a matter of not being into it, but not having the time. This is a pattern that I am into, but I did not have the time to finish stitch or to do much on it when it came up in rotation. And I dropped the pattern, so hang on one second. Right. So this is the pattern. It is the Cricut Collections January. Let me see if I can get it close enough that you can see it. And try to hold it straight. That's what it will look like when it's finished. I did not get a lot done on this. I am going to move the needle minder because it's in the way. So what I stitched this time is this tiny little portion of the first A in January. Yeah, it's not impressive. It's not exciting. But it's stitching and it's progress, and that's what counts, right? So that's on a piece of, I believe that's 28 count opalescent even weave, and I hand dyed it myself. And it's really pretty, but I'm not going to try to show it to you. I've showed it to you before. I'm not going to try to show it again with this lighting because it's not going to be done justice. The next piece I worked on, again, are you sensing a theme? I think this past couple of weeks, sometimes I was just really not into the whole stitching thing. Or I wanted to stitch on certain things that weren't up in my rotation, and so I did the bare minimum of stitching that I needed to. And yeah. So the next one I worked on is the Summer Unicorn by Doreen Jones. I brought the pattern back, or the picture back out again this time so you can see what it will look like when it's finished. I have all 4 of these, and I plan on doing all 4 of them. I just happened to start with summer. So that's what it will look like when it is finished. And currently, am I gonna move the stitch marker or the needle minder? Maybe I'll just turn it right side up so it actually looks like the horse that it is. That's where I am currently on Summer Unicorn. The needle minder, by the way, is from Denkai Designs. It is an enameled needle minder, and it's gorgeous. It's heavy, but it's gorgeous. Yeah, so that's where I am. I worked on the heart up here in the corner, and I put a few more stitches in the flower in the center top, and that's about it. I do like the piece. I just didn't, on the day that I was supposed to stitch it, I didn't feel like stitching the piece. Happens, right? The next, the next one that I worked on, well, I know for a fact that I did this one for homework for the School of Magical Stitches. This is the Geisha Angel or the Japanese Angel, depending on who... Hiccup, I am so sorry. Depending on who you talk to or which source you get it from. This is the artiste kit version that came from Hobby Lobby when I was shopping at Hobby Lobby. Yeah. So that's what she will look like. She is part of the Angel series that Barbara Bates did. I know that I put some stitches in on her for magical stitching last week. Not this week. I have not touched homework this week. Don't know if I will. But I basically... I'm sorry, I'm going to put that so it doesn't fall off my lap. And I basically just put some more stitches, and it's folded so you can't see it. Charming. Charming. How do I show this to you? Anyway, it's basically folded so... And then she forgot what she was saying. I put stitches in the sleeve here, basically, up here. And some in the train of her kimono. It's still an unrecognizable pattern of stitches that will eventually look like something, but doesn't quite yet. But again, progress is progress. This one, I'm actually very proud of. I worked on Save the Stitches again. If you are not familiar with it, Save the Stitches is a free pattern by Elizabeth Almond of Blackwork Journey. As someone said recently, and I don't remember who it was, but someone said, if you have seen Blackwork patterns, that was unfortunate. If you have seen Blackwork patterns in magazines, you have probably seen Elizabeth Almond's work. She does a lot of designing and a lot of sharing her designs with magazines. She has a lot of freebie stitching patterns on her website, which is blackworkjourney.com. Save the Stitches is one of the bigger ones that she is giving for free. It is broken up into pieces, and you can do it at your leisure. I am doing this on 25 count Lugana using DMC 310 and metallic DMC metallics. And yeah, this is where I am. I finished the third fill-in pattern, which is this one here. You can see that. So yeah, I finished that. I actually worked on that yesterday and did that whole thing yesterday. It's not a terribly complicated pattern. It does look really cool all put together. The one thing I will say about it is that it's hard to see the metallics in here. I asked my husband if he could see them last night after I'd finished, and he said, yeah, every once in a while I can get like a glint of shine, which I think is probably the point. But when you're looking at this, I mean, obviously in this lighting it's not going to show up, but in real life, when you under better light, yeah, every once in a while you can get a hint of metallic, but it's not very strong, and so that's a little disappointing, but I still like the pattern overall. This one is another one that I'm actually pretty proud of, despite the fact that I didn't do a ton of stitching on it. This is another one that I know for a fact I worked on for School of Magical Stitches homework, and this is my Celestial Moon Dragon by Joan Elliott. I brought the book with me this time so you can see the picture. This is what it looks like, or will look like when it's finished. And this is where I got to. Right. I really should have pinned my hair better. Yeah. So, as you can see, there is a wing there now. Last time I showed it to you, it was just that the back part, the green on the bottom where his back ridge is, was pretty much all that showed up. So I'm building his wing. There is more stitching on there. The fabric still drives me a little bit crazy. Thank you, Belinda, for saying that you think that it looks fantastic on this fabric. I think it will in the end. The fabric grows on me a little bit every time I touch it. Still not a big fan, but it'll work out. I have faith, so thank you. But yeah, so I worked on Celestial Moon Dragon. I also worked on my Asian Butterfly, which is a Dimensions kit. I'm going to show you the pattern, or not the pattern, I'm going to show you the picture. It may glare, I apologize. But that's what the Asian Butterfly looks like. Again, they called it Oriental Butterfly. It's an old kit, but that's what it's supposed to look like when it's finished. And this is another one where, and I think the problem with this one is that it's difficult to see the stitches on this fabric, on the fabric that came with the kit. It's a printed fabric. It has motifs on it that are supposed to be there. And so it's really hard to see the actual stitches that are done in here. Yeah. So this line of vaguely stitch-like things are what I did when this came up in rotation. And it's hard to see. I mean, there's stuff at the top, too, that you probably can't really see. So until this gets more work put into it, it's probably going to frustrate me when I pull it out to work on it. I'm going to keep pulling it out and working on it. But, yeah, you can't really see what I've done. I will say that the shape that this is making, this over here is making, is outlining the butterfly wing, and so I can see that in real life. I can see that the shape is being built in, and that's kind of interesting and cool, but it doesn't look like a lot when I'm trying to show it to you or anybody else, so yeah, disappointing. Right, the next thing I'm going to show you that I worked on is another Joan Elliott. So I have 3 going at this time, and I would have more. I would. Right, this is the Hummingbird Maiden by Joan Elliott. It is from the Native American cross-stitch book, though, as I said in my long-winded, loving ramble about her last episode, you can get this from her website directly, just the Hummingbird Maiden. But this is what she will look like eventually when she's finished. And this is where I am on her now. So this is a bottom portion of the skirt on her dress and coat. I filled in some of one of the yellows that I was talking about last week that I couldn't distinguish from the book pattern, and that is much easier to use using Joan's pattern, the printed pattern that she sent me. So, but I started filling this in. I actually spent a little extra time on this because when I was working on this, I really wanted to keep working on it. This is one of the times when touching things for a day is disappointing. I wanted to do a couple days of work. I think I did like a day and a half, really, because I did move on. But yeah, I really love this pattern. Despite the fact that I don't have a lot of it done yet, I really love this pattern already. So I'm really going to enjoy working on this further. Yeah, Hummingbird Maiden. This is a portion of her dress. This is where I am. This is on 18 count Aida that I hand dyed myself. It is sort of tan, modelly tan color. You probably saw it better in another video. You'll see it better in a future video. I promise. And the next pattern I worked on is, believe it or not, I gotta stop doing that. Believe it or not, a new pattern. I know I said I wasn't going to start anything new, or I was going to try not to buy anything new, but I saw these, I believe I saw them mentioned on Instagram first, I think. And I showed them to my husband, and my husband was very interested in them. They are not big patterns. They are a year-round collection of patterns, and I forgot to bring the picture. I have it all queued up on my tablet, so I'm going to pause the video one more time and go get my tablet and see if I can show you. Okay, hang on. Right, back again to show you this pattern. It is the Astara Pentacle by KixSiches on Etsy. Astara is one of the Celtic Wiccan festivals of the year. Yeah, it's basically the equivalent of Easter. And you're not going to be able to see that real well because it's on a digital device and it's going to wash out when I try to show you. But anyway, it's a pentacle with leaves and things, and there are bunnies and Easter eggs, and it's really cute. This is just the mock-up. That is not actually what it will look like stitched up, but that's the mock-up from the pattern making software, I assume. And yeah, so like I said, I showed it to my husband. He was really interested in having that stitched up, and so when I was not feeling something else, I decided to go ahead and start it. So this is where I am on it so far. Those are all of the first color of the leaves on the pentacle. It's a scattering of partial leaves is what it is, which looks kind of sad and silly, but it'll look much better when it's finished, undyed because of the colors. And yeah, and my phone just did something dumb. So I don't know if this is recording anymore or not. I guess we'll see. Yeah. So now that I've paused the video several times, I'm going to stop and I'm going to start the video again, or start a new video, and splice them together. My videos are always kind of a hot mess, aren't they? Oh well, it's fine. Be right back. Right. I have no time. Huh? Apparently there's no space on my phone. So the next thing I'm going to show you is a pattern that I talked about, but I didn't have the picture printed out for before. This is the Doctor Who by Mandy Mandazzo, supplied through Creatively Crafting. It will look like this, more or less. The colors are not absolutely accurate on that, but more or less that's what it'll look like. It is a full coverage piece. I have not done a lot of it, but I love what I have done. I love the fact that you can see the color changes. I just love work. This is one that when I'm not feeling something else, I will absolutely pick this up and work on it. So this is where I am on Doctor Who. The next piece I'm going to show you really quickly is the Mini Ravenkin, which is my Heaven and Earth design by Heaven and Earth Design, or charted by Heaven and Earth Design. The artist is Selena Fenich. I have shown this to you before. I am using this for the by the numbers 1200 stitches in the full coverage fanatics group this month, and for the fantasy coverage event in that group. It will look like this when it's finished. I currently have put in 1,000 of my 1,200 stitches on this. Last time you saw this, this diagonal was not completed. It was basically a chunk of black here in the corner. You may or may not be able to tell that it's lightening up here, so there's blues and grays in there. I need to finish this diagonal to finish for the month, so I have 200 more stitches I need to do, and that is what I'm gonna do. Last thing I'm gonna show you is my Believe, which is a magazine pattern from the Stitchery from 1999, something like that. It's old. This is where I am. I had the picture and I don't know where it is, and I don't really have time to look because I'm going to run out of space. So this is where I am on this. I did work on this in the last couple of weeks. This is what is up on deck to be worked on today. So you will see this again in the next episode. And yeah, really quickly, I said I was going to give away the Winterbird Mill Hill kit that I finished. And I had several people say that they would be interested in stitching that. There were 3 people who said they were interested. I'm going to choose right now. You can't really see that, can you? Anyway, that's random.org. I have the numbers. I'm going to click generate right now. And it's going to do it any second now. It will. Generate a number. Okay. So there were 3 people. The number that it picked was 3. Can you see that at all? Maybe. I don't know. There you go. Maybe you can see it. Anyway, the number it picked was 3, and the third person who said they would be interested in stitching that was Belinda. So Belinda, I may have your address. Belinda, Aussie Stitcher. Yay! I may have your address. I will check. If I don't, I will leave a comment on your comment to ask for your address, and I will get that sent out to you in the next couple of weeks. Yeah, I need to do something about the space on my phone because I inevitably run into this issue with every video that I make now. I'm gonna fix it. I am. If I can insert pictures, I will. If I can't, bear with me. And as always, thank you for watching. Thank you for spending time with me. I do appreciate your time and your attention and your lovely comments so much. And I will see you again in a couple of weeks. Love you, love you, love you. Have great stitching. Have an amazing life for the next couple of weeks, and I'll see you soon.